Hello, and welcome to Andrew's Kitchen. Today I want to make you Oklahoma onion burgers. These burgers are very simple, but super tasty. They're way tastier than you're going to think with all just the ingredients we're going to use. First off, we're going to need some ground beef. This is medium ground beef from the grocery store. We're going to want a whole lot of onions, way more than you might think you're going to need, and you want to slice them as thin as possible into rings, like you're making really thin onion rings. Gonna need a little salt and pepper, some processed cheese, and in fact this is probably the best use of processed cheese out there, and some buns. Again, these are just from the grocery store. Lastly, this is a little trick that I'll leave you with for any burger, is some wax paper, which I'll show you at the end. Now, the first thing you want to do when you make any hamburger is not to handle the meat too much. If you're doing this kind of thing, you're making meatloaf. If you're blending in a bunch of spices, you're making meatloaf. If you want a nice, just juicy burger, then you handle the meat as little as possible. So this is about a half pound of beef. And so I'm going to make roughly quarter pounders here. So I've tried to divide this up into 2 equal pieces. If one seems a little bigger than the other, well, give that to the person who has the bigger appetite. And I'm just going to gently shape this. You see how I'm just leaving it in its form, but I'm trying to put it into a slightly burgery shape, and I want that to be relatively thick. That's definitely the bigger piece, half of these, because I'm going to smash them. We're making smash burgers here, which will then sort of flatten them out. So I've got one a little bigger than the other, but that's okay. Now, so I got my burgers made. Again, I handled them as little as possible. I'm going to season them generously with salt and pepper on one side here. That's the side that's going to go down in the pan first. And you want your pan really hot. So I'm putting that at almost full heat here. And I've got a cast iron pan, and I suggest you use the heaviest bottom or the sort of thickest pan that you have. If you have like a metal pan, use it, because you want to get that really hot, and you want it to be like a griddle in a restaurant kind of thing. Now, while that's heating up, I want to talk to you a little about the onions and why this burger really works. And there is some science here. Why you want to cut it into very thin rings is because when you have an onion like this, the cells point in the onion up, down, along here. So when you cut across, the way I did by slicing that into very thin rings, what I'm doing is I'm cutting through some of those cells, and I'm basically having the contents be able to be exposed to the grill. And a lot of the smells and aromas and tastes associated with onions are called thiosulfonates, and so they sort of give onion their flavor. But there's one in particular, and this is a mouthful, called 3-mercapto-2-methylpentan-1-ol, or MMP. What's one of the compounds we're going to sort of make from the onion and the heat here together. And it has a meaty taste to it. In fact, it has been isolated by itself to have the taste of beef stew. And so when you cook your onions this way with the hamburger, what we're doing here is essentially making the hamburger burgerier, where there's a study that was done that says it makes meat taste 80 times meatier. Now, how you measure that or what that even means, I don't know. But my point here is this is not going to be an onion burger. It's going to be a burger, and it's going to taste like a burger, but it's got some onions with it. So if you don't like onions, I still think you should try this. If you do like onions, you're going to love it, but you will find that this isn't a burger with a ton of onions on it, even though it's going to look like I'm using a ton of onions. It will taste pretty hamburgery and pretty nice. So my pan is still heating up here. I want to get that really hot. I'd like to see some smoking coming off it. Okay, I think that's hot enough now. You might even be able to see a little bit of smoke coming off of there. That took about 10 minutes, so pro tip, turn your pan on before you start one of these videos. So what I'm going to do is, you should hear that nice sizzle. Get those burgers in there. And what you want to do next is wash your hands. Now I'm gonna season the other side. And while that's cooking, I'm going to basically pile on a ton of onions here. Again, way more than you would think. You want basically half an onion's worth. This is a full onion. I'm going to try to get as much of that on there as possible. You're going to lose some, of course. And that's all right. So we got our onions piled up. We got our beef cooking. I'm going to let that sit for maybe 30 seconds. And then I'm going to press these down as hard as I can. I have a heavy spatula here with no holes in it in order to do this. It's not ideal because there's not a lot of room on the frying pan, but it's the best I can do here. So ideally you want to press down as hard as you can or get it as flat as possible and even kind of do the sides up a bit, but I'm going to hit the side of the pan here if I try that too much. But you really want to smash that in. So here we go. Smash burgers. Oklahoma onion smash burgers here. And the other one. You can tuck up some onions that may have gone astray here. Now's a good time to put those back on if you can. So one of the things that's happening here and why it's going to taste so good is that some of the onions are going to get really cooked, like, very fried. Some of them are just going to be, regularly fried. Some are going to be caramelized, and some are just going to be steamed. And so you're going to get a very large depth of flavor here coming through from all that different level of cook on the onions. And again, all that's going to enhance the beefy taste. So you want to let those fry until you can sort of see a crust forming on the side of the burger. And again, this is pretty high heat. But one of the hallmarks of a smash burger is the crustiness of it. And so you want to let the pan do its work here. All right, I'm starting to see it brown on the edges, the meat that is. So I want to try to tuck in as many of these onions as I can. But now I'm going to flip these burgers, which is a little bit of a trick in a small pan here. Yeah, you see the crust on that? Beautiful. Now the next thing you want to do is add your cheese. And here's another trick to steaming. We're going to put that bun right on top right now so that it gets that nice flavor from the frying onions and the burger and the cheese. And I'm going to put the heels on top like that. Now, if you really want to do this part right, you can take an old dish towel that you don't care very much about and just sort of drape it gently over the whole thing. And that's going to capture that steam and really make those buns delicious. All right, we're about ready to pull this off. Yeah, look at that steam. I'm going to get my wax paper set here. So now what I can do is take the heels off. Now I'm going to get as many onions, of course, as I can. Put that on there. Do the same thing here. There we go. Take the pan off the heat here. And I'm just going to wrap these up like I was at McDonald's to let that steaming process finish. And again, that's a tip I do for any type of burgers that I make. So I'm going to let those just sit for a second as if they've come off the grill at a restaurant, and they're going to hand them to me and I'm going to carry them to my table to eat them. But basically, we're all set. And so that's steamed for, you know, a little bit of time. You can leave these, you know, as long as you'd like, actually. It's really good if you have a party too and you're handing out burgers. It just helps keep the mess down and everything. But there is a function. It will make the bun a lot nicer and softer and much more like you get in a restaurant. So here we go, the moment of truth. What do you think of that? Looks pretty good. Let's see how it tastes. Okay, there it is. Delicious. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you give these a try, and I'll see you in the next video.